Namaskar, and with profound significance and a very deep sense of gratitude towards all present in this August gathering, I welcome you all to the Vellore Institute of Technology presents the HT Future-Ed Conclave 2025, and which you see is on a very apt and a relevant theme of the new order of education begins now. A theme that makes us explore how our education system must evolve beyond the traditional methods so as to prepare the learners for tomorrow, for an unpredictable future. And as we are all aware, our Indian education system is already undergoing a massive transformation driven by digital acceleration, societal needs, policy reforms. NEP 2020 is unfolding. So at this very critical juncture, this conclave, ladies and gentlemen, brings together the key stakeholders who are shaping this transformation. Our policymakers, our educators, our researchers, and all the other stakeholders across this huge value chain of the education sector coming together on one platform towards shaping this new order of education, shaping a more robust and a vibrant skilling and learning ecosystem, an ecosystem that prepares the learners for life, for work, for 21st century citizenship, while envisioning a truly India-centric education system, an education system which is for aspirational India, which is for new India, which is for Viksit Bharat. So with this very outlook to this entire conclave, ladies and gentlemen, as I welcome you all, I would now like to invite Mr. R. Sukumar, our Editor-in-Chief of Hindustan Times, to kindly open the summit with his welcome remarks.
Thank you. Good morning. I'd like to express my appreciation to the Minister, Mr. Jayant Chaudhary, for taking time out from his busy schedule. We know Parliament is going on and there's lots of work happening. We are truly honored to have you here. Ladies and gentlemen, it's always interesting to talk about education, more so in a country like India, because we are a unique country, right? I mean, we have both first world problems and third world problems. And that's especially true in an area like education. You worry about issues like access and delivery and affordability at one side, and at the other side you have to worry about, given the huge strides that are happening in technology and with the emergence of artificial intelligence, what is really going to happen to people. And you know, you have to address both problems, and they have to be addressed at the same time. So it makes it very difficult for policymakers, it makes it very difficult for people who run educational institutions, and it also makes it difficult for students in some ways. If you look at, you know, I'm not sure that we need to, I know the subtitle here says a new order, but you know, we need to qualify what a new order means, because I think in some ways what is really needed is a return to the older way of doing things. Because whether you look at the Indian early system of philosophy, including natural philosophy, or if you look at the Greek system, or if you look at anything that happened during the Renaissance, you look at all streams of knowledge, learning typically comes from curiosity. Learning typically comes from critical thinking. And I think one of the things that unfortunately our education system has done over the last 20, 30 years is that we've removed the critical thinking aspect from the curriculum. We don't teach students to think, we just teach them to do. And unfortunately, you know, this means that they all end up learning by rote, and the minute you have some basic technology that can replace them, companies find it easier to replace them with that basic technology, and life goes on. And I think it's very, very important that we go back to basics, really, and teach them what is called first principle thinking. If there is a problem, you know, how do you sequentially think about it? And I think that's far more important than any of these other things that are taught about, right? I mean, Low-level coding, for instance, which a lot of institutes spend time on, is something that is no longer of any utility, right? My son is a biologist. I mean, he's an aspiring biologist. He's now doing his post-graduation. Spent a lot of time becoming proficient in R. And now uses ChatGPT to write all his R programs, right? Because so you don't really need to do that. But what you really need to do is to understand the larger issues that you're studying, which is why I say it's important for educational institutions to start focusing on teaching people how to think. For policymakers, of course, technology has it's got a huge beneficial power. Because if you look at low-level problems, which is really problems related to scale, problems related to access, problems related to delivery, I really think that artificial intelligence can deliver high-quality education across multiple languages in a very, very affordable way, and in a very in a way in which people can understand, in a very comprehensible way, to millions of underprivileged people, underprivileged students across the country. And I think there the benefits of technology are there. So I think, it's a question of balancing it out. In our quest for the future, I don't think we should forget the past. And I think the basics of education, right, what people call the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic, it used to be reckoning, and then the reckoning became arithmetic. I think that doesn't change, because those are the basics of teaching people how to think. So with that, and hoping that some of these issues that I've raised will be discussed in the course of today's conference, I welcome you all once again. Yet again, I thank the Minister for taking time out from his schedule to be here. I hope all of you walk out of these with some of the answers to questions that you will have. We will try to make this as interactive as possible through the course of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sukumar, for your opening remarks, and a very interesting perspective when you mentioned that when you talk about our education system, probably going back to the roots where we had critical thinking, an important element of our education system. We probably took a little detour in between, and now we again need to connect with the roots and have a system which opens up the horizon. So thank you for that remarks and setting the tone and the context of our conclave. And moving further, ladies and gentlemen, as we now begin with the inaugural session, we have an opening conversation which reflects the political thinking, the political will of shaping the Indian education and skilling ecosystem. And that is where we are really glad and privileged and honored to be having the Hon'ble Minister, the Honorable Minister of State with the independent charge of skilling and entrepreneurship, and the Minister of State for Education, who, with a focus on access, equity, skilling, institutional capacity building, has been pushing for the reforms, the education reforms being introduced by the Government of India towards their implementation. So we are glad that he has joined us. And in conversation with him will be Ms. Jayant Chaudhary, our National Political Editor, Hindustan Times. So please join me as I request the Honorable Minister, sir, to be kindly taking center stage along with Ms. Jayant Chaudhary.
No, I just wanted to start off by saying that you had a very late night yesterday because of developments in Parliament. And some of the protests that happened this session, some of it was associated with your bill, which is the higher education bill. But at the nub of a lot of the protests, the common thread that was there is something which is also, some of it isn't related to your ministries, but some of it is. A lot of the opposition MPs, Minister, were upset about the fact that the naming in a lot of these bills, for example, the higher education one is called Viksit Bharat Shiksha Adhishtan. And of course, we have the G-Ramji. So they're saying, why is it that so much, when India has so many languages, why is it that so much of Hindi is coming in? And I think that has been an overarching debate and a thing of lots of consternation among opposition parties. So would you like to address that?
In Hindi or English?
We're not going to be as fussy as the opposition. I think our audience can understand both.
See, my view and the view in government is the language is plays a very strong part of who we are. Our cultural rootedness, our sense of identity, and languages should be linking us, empowering us, should not ever be an obstruction. What every human being wants from another human being is a sense of connection, is a sense of mutual respect. When you meet someone for the first time, you look into their eyes, you emote, you are expressing yourself. And if that person doesn't understand you at all, then it's a challenge that you look at ways of overcoming. But you have to understand that in India, there is no one language. In the constitutional scheme of things, there is no mandate to have just one language. And there are many cultural sayings, one in Hindi, that, kos mein pani badle teen kos mein vani. It is a part of our Indian identity that we have multicultural, multilingual diversity. What is the government policy? The government policy is that we must further enrich that diversity. We need to have respect for that diversity. That diversity is perhaps what connects us, what gives us that sense of being Indian, what gives us that sense of pride in our own history, in our sense of community, and it is nothing to be afraid of. Sometimes, in politics, positioning is based on certain short-term thinking. But the tyranny of what I would call a parochial intellectualism should not stop us from engaging with people who speak different languages and who are essentially Indian, who are part of us. And that is what government policy is really. So if you look at education, NEP, earlier versions of NEP, the three-language formula perhaps had a mandate. They had the notion of a connecting language. The current policy is completely flexible. There is absolutely no Hindi imposition. But if someone doesn't read the policy or doesn't understand what it is standing for and is just objecting to it because there's an election cycle, there's very little that can be said to that person. That's the unfortunate bit. For instance, let me give you examples. There's a program that has been ideated, and now this is perhaps the fourth time that event has been done in Banaras. We're calling it Hindi Tamil Samagamam. And what is happening in these events is we have about 50 Hindi-speaking Tamil teachers who've come in. And in the course of this current iteration, what they've done is that they have exposed young school students to Tamil. At a very young age, when they listen to Tamil words, it builds an excitement, builds a curiosity, perhaps builds up a desire to learn. Those 1,500 students, they're studying in different government schools in Banaras. Tomorrow, if they come and they say, we want Tamil language capacity in our school, and a sufficient number of them come together, earlier policies did not allow for it. But the NEP 2020 does give the flexibility for a student to demand that language capacity in a school, and thereby the school asking for that resource to be provided, and it's up to the states to provide that resource. And simply put, from the education perspective, I'm not getting into other bills and other debates. It's well known that learning more languages at an early age has a deep-rooted impact. Your learning outcomes are improved. Your cognitive abilities get improved. Recently, there was an event in Lucknow, the Bharat Scout Guides. They do an annual jamboree. And thousands of students are participating. They're so excited, for school students, it's a coming together. From different regions, different states, they were there. And when I went there, for some reason, 9 out of 10 students that I interacted with were from Tamil Nadu. I thought, let me speak to them in English. And they were replying to me in Hindi. And I asked many of them, how many languages do you speak? They said, Telugu, Tamil, Hindi. 3 or 4 was the bare minimum. Why is the government insisting that we will not let students learn 3 languages? No, only 2 languages. Is that really a progressive idea?
I think it's not the fact that, the 3 language or the two-language thing. I think it is that in a lot of the states, for example, Maharashtra taking back this entire order this year was because the first language, of course, is the mother tongue, which NAP also endorses. But for the second language, many people think it's viable for their career opportunities. And as the skilling minister, you would also agree with that. That second language, they don't want Hindi, they prefer English. And in the three-language policy, according to NEP, as many states see it, the second part is the problem, where instead of English, they're being told to take Hindi. And that's
No,
where
not
the
at all,
problem.
not at all. Let me use this platform and this opportunity to completely correct this, this lie, this fallacy, this conspiracy, if I may use strong words. There is no mandate for Hindi. Show me the guideline that says you have to teach Hindi in NEP.
But
Absolutely no mandate.
But
There is
Maharashtra
only
had to
one
take it
mandate.
back.
Two languages which are considered mother tongue, which are part of our local traditions, which, like I said, are part of who that community feels they are, which could be Tamil, could be Marathi, could be a tribal language. Complete freedom is there. 2 out of 3 has to be that. The third can be Hindi, it can be English, can be any other language. International languages are also being taught. We in Skill Ministry are looking at ways that we can create a capacity where we recognize language as a skill. And so for mobility, we understand that, again, like I say, language, and students need to understand, more you learn, the better it is. Language will enable mobility, will never restrict you in life. And again, the freedom is because of NEP that we've given the freedom to the states to decide. So Maharashtra can decide. It is up to what the people of Maharashtra want, up to the aspirations, their own capacity of their educators, their system, and they can then align their system, align their policy according to that.
So,
I mean, do we not want a free policy? Do we want a specific mandate? Because currently there is no mandate, apart from 2 out of 3 to be Indian languages.
So are you saying it's more a thing of optics? But even the optics, so if we talk about optics, I'm sorry, I'm going to come back to it. I just wanted a little bit of clarity because I think you also came into Parliament the time that I started covering politics. So since then, one of the major trends that I've noticed is, one, things have become so
Problem there is people know when I first came to Parliament, just so they're going to know how old you are.
That's fine. That's fine. No, I wanted to ask you that since then, just over in recent years, things have become so fraught now that most people are, because of this Hindi debate and things like that, most people now they're so upset about the fact, 2 things. One, in just the last year, most of the bills are coming out now with Hindi names. So that many people have an objection to. So just explain why that is. Even if it's not about education, if you just explain why that is. And the second thing is, you would also accept that many of your colleagues are now, because they want to fight this perception of Hindi imposition, they're all speaking in Odia, Bengali, Tamil, Telugu. So everyone's speaking their own. So you don't see English as a uniting thing, but you don't even see Hindi. I mean, we see it among BJP MPs, but people are trying to assert their regional identity.
No, I mean, what is wrong with that? Like I said, that is a beautiful amalgam. That is the bouquet of different scents and flowers that makes India great. It is part of what I perceive as India's core strength. And it is again, it's very parochial of us to say that, no, we don't want that. I'll give an example of how languages are used really to communicate a point to the one who's listening to that and understand that language. I'll give the example of my grandfather. People think that he was someone who got educated in a rural setting and who was a very outstanding votary of grassroots politics, of also rural development, of farmer issues, which he wanted to mainstream at that point in politics. People think that he only knew Hindi or he was not good at English. He wrote books in English. He announced the manifesto of his party, which was broadcast on DD at that time, completely in very good English. But people today also meet me, Chaudhary Charan Singh, acha wo kitabein likhi Hindi mein likhi hongi. So it is counterintuitive. But he understood who was he talking to. He was talking to, at that time, the mainstream. Even a lot of our freedom fighters, our independence movement, the core leadership, perhaps at that time, they felt that the connecting language was English. So he used that language. So let's not get bogged down in what language is being used. Look at the idea. Look at the concept. Look at what the bill is doing. Look at what the bill is creating. Look at how that bill is designed to empower us, rather than get stuck up in the name.
If we, the NEP 2020, which we talked about, it talks about this kind of integration of vocational education with skill development. How do you align the academic framework with all of this skilling, especially of the ministry and the entire ecosystem over there?
So India is a young country. More and more, the excellence that you are seeing around us is coming from younger people. And there's nothing to, perhaps the average age in this room is higher, and also on stage is higher. But a lot of our young entrepreneurs are really making a mark. And if you look at it, if you look at the average age of entrepreneurs in India, that is also probably coming down over the years. There is a institution that does wealth management that comes up with a report, a HONUS report. So the first time they came up with an under 30 report, and they featured about 79, startup enterprises and their founders. And the encouraging thing there was also that they weren't just from Mumbai and Bangalore and Chennai and Delhi. A lot of them were coming from small cities. So we are a young country, and what I feel is that definitely the concept of entrepreneurship, that independent-minded thinking, has to be seeded young. Often when we talk about skill development, we place it in our own head as what was called vocational education. So we think formal education is your school, it is your university. So if you want, and we drill it into our students and our own families, that acquisition of knowledge. School जाना है सीखने के लिए, समझने के लिए, knowledge acquisition के लिए. लेकिन for some reason, you are supposed to do a 30-hour course, and out of that 30-hour course, you are supposed to become employable. Parliament session is ongoing. There, when I give an answer, I'm a little bit constrained by, my position in government and the norms of parliamentary proceedings. Here, I can be free with you. Don't you think that's a little unfair? That we're telling students that you do an ITI and then definitely you should all get jobs. What happened to 15 years in school? Why are they not employable? What happened to your 3-4 degree, your engineering pass outs? How many of them are considered employable in industry? So if you look at it holistically, there is no end point, and there is no starting point. We have to look at the whole Jivan Yatra, education Yatra, in one seamless journey. And we have to reinforce everyone that this is not static. It's the hardest to get curriculum to evolve dynamically. It is the hardest thing to do, to get an academician to think out of the box and dynamically. I hope I don't offend anyone in a room full of great thinkers. It is the hardest thing to do as minister. I find this is the most stubborn set of people I've ever interacted with. But the thing is, by the very nature of what we're trying to do, education, system, policy has to be ahead of the curve. We have to be ahead of society. It has to be aspirational from the very beginning until the very end. So to be able to reinforce a sense of lifelong learning that you have to, as a student, you're always a student. My father was a student, in 80s. Every good, active citizen is learning. There are many avenues for learning. Skill development is one piece of it. But it has to start from school. So I'm happy that, again, this is enabled by NEP. NEP is talking about, AI. This is about policy more than 5 years ago, and specifically it mentions AI. Specifically it mentions technology. It talks about inculcating an awareness of skilling, starting from 6th grade till 8th grade, and giving real avenues for learning, for looking at these skills, certain traits that are possible to be taught to schools to be integrated into that. And we're working to implement that. Roughly 1,200 skill labs were recently given to Navodaya Vidyalaya schools, tribal schools.
Would you
We
like
recently
to-
inaugurated it. Atal Tinkering Labs have been 10,000 have been given to government schools. 50,000 more are to be funded over the next 5 years. More than 1 lakh schools have participated in the skill awareness from 6th to 8th. 10 unstructured, bagless days where school students are supposed to intern with artisans, they're supposed to meet and interact MSMEs. More than 3 crore school-going children have benefited from that initiative. So we have a wonderful architecture and design in terms of NEP that allows us to do that. Second, we have a digital backbone as part of that larger design that enables that transition, which is your academic bank of credit, which is storing your credit, which is displayed to you via the DigiLocker. There is a national credit framework, which is looking at creditizing everything, whether it's a micro-credential, whether it's your school journey. In the school, there's a holistic progress card. There are various numerous student-specific data points which are generated through your APAR.
But all of this is industry collaborating enough with you. I know that's a concern.
So again, schools, there's a whole process. And in a room full of academicians, again, I'll tell you that not an inch moving, the wheel either left or right is very easy. There's a whole process that is followed, and that's fairly time-tested and robust. I'm not questioning it. But in industry, if you look at skill development, who's developing the curriculum? NCVT, the regulator, is not developing it. Our, the closest we have to NCRT, which is a NIMMI or a CSTRI in Bengal, our central institutions, they are not creating the curriculum. It is actually curriculum that is created by industry. For all of our courses of PMKVY, it has the skill councils, 36 sector-specific skill councils, which are those bodies that are recognized. They create the curriculum. They submit it. So a number of qualifications are analyzed. They are shelved. If there's no demand, we shelve it, so that it is actually demand-driven. So perhaps the most dynamic curriculum that is created across our higher ed, school, and skill is the skill department.
So one thing that I think there's a great conversation across the world, and I wanted to ask you, is this something that concerns you as well? How much do you worry about, as the skills minister, how much are you worried about how AI is changing the world and the job scenario?
No, I'm not worried. As someone who can still call himself or thinks I am young, I'm not worried. It is exciting. It has huge ramifications. If you look at the macro level, there are different versions, different stories, different assessments already in place. Macro level, yes, there's an assessment that you'll create more jobs. But we have to recognize that who are the people doing those jobs. It may not be your existing workforce. It may not be the students you're creating out of, like Sukumar said, out of our education institutions who are learning perhaps the very rudimentary coding. So that getting this Levithian academic ecosystem to adjust to that, that is a challenge. But I would not call it scary. I think it has a great potential that India can leapfrog the kind of deficits that we face. This is a great opportunity. For instance, in mobile telephony, you saw that we didn't have WLL, we didn't have to go through all the different iterations. We immediately grabbed the new standard. So similarly, this is an idea, the AI has a potential where you need limited capital, you need great ideas. And India, through AI mission, has already built significant capacity to compute. We are enabling more research in our educational institutions, which was not possible earlier. A lot of our patents now being filed by young students in our higher educational institutions relate to AI. So from that policy perspective, I think we are seeing encouraging signs. But I again believe that we need to start younger. Let's not be afraid of that. Even if we teach it or not teach it, I know that even school students are already using these tools. So about 2 months ago, we've launched a new program. We're calling it Skilling for AI Readiness. This is completely free courses given to us by top companies, HCL, Microsoft, NASCOM. They've given us courses, and they have 4 modules. One is for teachers, for educators, which is very important. One is AI to be aware, which is more initiation, exposure, perhaps for the 6th to 8th class students. After that, you have AI to acquire, which is looking at more foundational capacity building. And then there's the fourth module, which is AI to aspire, where you're looking at linking it to what are the tools that can be used for career opportunities, for entrepreneurship development. These are free courses. Already in just 2 months, more than close to 2 lakh people have signed up for it. In this current parliament session, I reached out, we did workshops for certain members of parliament. We asked them, you should do this course. And they were so excited.
What are they being trained in specifically?
So from prompt engineering to concepts of AI, the ethics of AI is built into every aspect of it. There are 15-hour courses.
For the MPs.
So Sunetra, you should do it.
I should.
No, this is for everyone.
Yeah, okay.
School students are doing it.
No, so Minister, what I wanted to ask you
I'm going to do the course.
Okay, that's...
And this is all free. It's
No,
on
so-
Skill India Digital.
No,
Hub.
you're doing the course. What do you think it'll help you? What kind of skill? Like if specifically...
So
speaking.
AI is not a vertical. It's not a horizontal. It's going to be, it has to be provided in every different vertical. You're going to see more content being developed, more curriculum being designed. But essentially, the basics of AI need to be understood by everyone.
Sure. What I wanted to ask you about the concern, when you said you're not concerned, but what worries me is that it is kind of like a buzzword. So a lot of kids are signing up for this, but I'm not understanding how specifically, is it something that a lot of people are just using to make a lot of money by saying that, okay, we'll give you an AI course. Are they using it right? Because already in the West, they're talking about an AI bubble, right? That it's not going to be as life-changing or as beneficial or as much of a commercial success as people thought it to be, right? There's concerns about that already. And it's just that, we are seeing our education reporter, he does stories about how many of the universities are now introducing lots of AI courses. So are you not a little bit concerned that everybody, like in droves, they're going to sign up for these AI courses? And is it really, whereas a lot of people are now talking about the fact that because of so much AI, there's going to be a lot more premium on people who can do original thinking. And perhaps there's even a thinking that in the future, there's going to be a lot more premium because machines can do lots of maths, right? You may need a lot of people who have that liberal education, liberal science education, like so an arts education, which teaches them to think in an original way. So not a black and white thing, which a machine can do, but just to think innovatively. So are these things that our policymakers, people like you, thinking about? That what kind of AI training do we really need, which is going to perhaps teach a kid to outsmart the machine?
No, you're absolutely right. This is something I actually spoke about when I visited Davos, and the whole theme was AI last year. So that is why we've introduced the skilling for AI readiness, just to show that a large mass of population of our country understands these concepts. We need to be aware, build an awareness on what is the bias in current models, what is the value to the data sanctity, what is concepts around cyber security, on data privacy. If we don't engage with it at all, out of fear or out of some misplaced sense of this technology is not for us, then I think we will lose out. And India cannot afford to do that. We've taken, thankfully, a strong position of leadership. We are in February going to host a very important global event on AI. And our policy has largely been progressive. It has been nuanced. We are not here to regulate at the time where currently it is very primary level understanding on what is the real potential. Like you said, some of these things are still in development. But the potential is vast. And if we are to truly use and harness that potential, we need to have a very open mind and open perspective at this point. And we need to design for that. So largely that is the approach. But you're right, perhaps in what stream should a young person choose? I think multidisciplinary approach, having more creativity built into avenues for building creativity, built into curriculum, built into teaching pedagogy. This is largely what NEP is asking us to do. And through various different measures, we're trying to create that opportunity for a young student in every school of the country. There are certain best practices. I spoke about Atal Tinkering Labs. For instance, in Andhra Pradesh, for children with special needs, special learning needs, they are creating special autism centers in schools, in PM Shri schools. Their proposal has recently been approved, and their first centers should be inaugurated very soon. And there they've worked with Google, and they've created a STEM and robotics lab specifically for students with an autism disability.
Yeah.
So this is where technology can also create those avenues where every student can have a customized solution that is made available to them. That is the beauty where, without AI, without big data, without analyzing, being able to crunch those macro level numbers of 25 crore school students, more than 1 crore, government teachers, more than close to 15 lakh government schools. When you look at it like that, it's scary. But now you have the tools to understand what does it all mean for a child with disabilities. Can we screen them early? Can we understand what their experience is? Can we see the gaps in a classroom? If a child is not keeping pace with the rest of the classroom, is there a tool that can tell the teacher, you need to give more attention to this particular child? Can that child be assessed throughout their academic journey in classroom? There are tools. In fact, just today morning, I'm coming to this event after an event where working with Korea, working with Samsung, there's a tag hive. In government schools in Bagpat and Bulandshahr, 2 districts in the first phase, they tried it out. They gave clickers to teachers. They did teacher training on how to use it. They gave clickers to students. So in a multiple format, question format, actively and with the AI tool built on it, they're assessing real time, is every student, what is that student specific learning?
Okay.
What is the outcome? And the teachers were so excited. I met them, and now the second phase they're going to do in schools, more schools in Mathura and Noida. So these are some of the great spots of excellence that are coming through. The challenge in India is providing more visibility and scale to these efforts. What is Andhra Pradesh doing? Can Bihar learn from that? The challenge is that sometimes we create great islands of excellence, best ideas, creativity. Can we create a collaborative network of excellence?
So, when we are speaking so much about technology, I have to ask you about something which is happening all over. And I don't know if it's a concern for you, you have kids as well, is Australia's just banned smartphones for children, right? Is this something that India is at all thinking about? I know that Mr. Vaishnav talks about putting in parental controls and things like that, but as a Minister of Education and Skilling, where do you stand on this? I'm asking you as personally, where do you stand on this?
Yeah, I'll tell you. First of all, I asked this room, with your own experience of Indian democracy, you understand India as well as I do. I don't know India any better than you, Sunitra. Which is the best government policy that has actually worked and implemented? It's the one where people feel that they are playing a role, where they are stakeholders, where the onus is on them, responsibility is on them, where they understand the benefits of acting in a certain way. They see the larger benefit, societal benefit, long-term benefit, and then they take it on themselves and they actually do it. If we are going to come up with bans, typically, government is very entitled to do so. Person on my seat, person who's a high-ranking bureaucrat can easily say, "यार रोक दो, बस क्या करना है, एक signature करना है, बन गई policy." Implement कौन करेगा? Who's going to do that? Ultimately, it's for society to ponder on these issues. It's for every parent to do it. Every parent has their own ways of tackling it. We tried in our household. For my 2 daughters, and I was not so strict as a parent. I'm very, very probably too loose. So that's a great balance we have as parents. So the mother was saying, no, device dena hai, abhi bhi, before you're sleeping, no more device. So that discipline has to be built in by every teacher, every influencer, every mentor in life We'll try and reinforce that. But I'm not for a ban where we have zero exposure. And in any case, people will find a way. You can make the best policy, but people will find a way. The market will find a way. Society will find a way to evolve. So currently, India is doing well in the sense that people who are the have-nots, who don't have equal access to capital, to opportunity, using these technologies, they can jump ahead of the room. I don't think we need to bar them from that. Guardrails, yes. Understanding, a deep understanding of what is the safety, what is the do's and don'ts, what are the wrongs, what are the threats. That understanding can only be built by greater engagement, not through bans.
If we're speaking about education, one of the things that has been seen of late, one disturbing trend is, of course, it's always been there. We've always seen student suicides. But I think in the recent years, and HT did a whole data piece on it, that the age has also dipped. Many more students in schools. Is this something that people like you are worrying about? And then my second question is, how do you tackle this?
No, absolutely. That worries me. That's something that should keep all of us up at night. These are not numbers and statistics. Every life matters. And if it doesn't matter to us, it's not going to matter to anyone. So we have a great opportunity. I have a great responsibility, and I'm very mindful of that. In terms of what we are doing, Samagra Shiksha, we are working with states so that they build capacity for counseling. Every block in the country at least should have a counselor. Every institution should have access. Some of the states are running, specialized helplines. There are online resources that are there to help children overcome these stresses. And there are ways of de-stressing. One of the good ways of encouraging more positivity in younger people is for them to engage more with sports. So now we are working on building, creating that capacity that sports is not extracurricular, sports is part of your academic journey. They should have sporting opportunities. So in that, I think a lot of the journey as young students, they will get stress points. They'll get points when they are tested. They'll get points when they don't do as well, when they lose. We have to continuously build them up for the best that they can be. Philosophically speaking, that is the mandate. And when I meet and when I ask for reports and my ministry gives me these figures, they say past percentage has gone up. Now the average percentage now in boards in 10th and 12th is 85, 90. The first time they tried showing me that, I said, I don't want to see that. So it's a different approach. We have to continuously assess that. I'm not saying that. Let's take that system seriously. But we should not be driven by it. Don't we all know as parents and as academicians that we are putting on more and more and more and more burden on students? I think that is why parallelly we're looking at bagless days, unstructured learning, working as change agents, building that capacity for students to debate, to interact with their communities, to talk about cleanliness, to talk about environment, to create an eco club. All of these are part of what our policy is asking us to do, to look at holistic progress card reports. Not just कि maths में इतना 10 में से 9 point आए, science में इतना आया. Look at it holistically. We are looking at telling every teacher that you need to start capturing those elements of a student's journey.
But isn't there a very few people are thinking of it like that? We have so many engineering institute heads over here. And it's so difficult for people to, one, get placed there, and then after that, they're all thinking about placements, and placements are dipping. That's the report coming in from many campuses across the country. So the stress level for a young person is definitely not easing. I know that the government tried to do various things like changing the courses, but is that really working?
Stress is a part of life. You have to learn, you have to inculcate how you can deal with it at an individual level. Politics में stress नहीं होता है. हर 5 साल होता है. Every 5 years we have election. We are judged. It's a very stressful journey. So, young students can do it. Everyone can do it.
So my final question, because we are running out of time, I just wanted to ask you, in order to improve the placement services of the kids that are coming out from these vocational institutes in order to, what kind of help and what kind of factors do you think you'd like to see in the coming years?
There's certain things we're working on. This is a question that is quite open-ended, so I could talk for half an hour, but I'll try and just be precise. This notion of employability, which was one of the first questions we started with, is dynamic. It is ever evolving. It is changing. And to be fair, even industry doesn't understand it. Sometimes I hear very substantive, large statements from our industry moguls that we need our people to work so many hours a week, and our people are just not employable. I've heard L&T
How many
chairman
hours
say,
should they be working, by the way? Are you part of the 70-hour week? Do you believe in that?
No.
What's a good work week, do you think?
They should work effectively. We are not mapping how productive they are, because we don't have a metric for it. Similarly, we don't have a metric for employability. What do you really want? There's a soft element, there's a communication element, there's a self-confidence element, there's a technical skills.
No, Minister, I want clarity on this. This is interesting. Because
How many hours a week do you work?
My boss is right here. No, honestly, I wanted to say, do you believe in, which part of the debate do you stand in? Do you believe in work-life balance, or do you think in order to make India a great economy, people should be working maximum, like, I don't know, 60 hours, 70 hours?
Okay, I've just come from an event where I interacted with teachers, the Tag Hive event, inauguration, students, and I profess this, and I'll say it on this stage. What is the metric of success is not percentages, no. If you are giving more work, homework karo, and every family is hiring tutors to give exams, and that is causing further stress, ultimately, this time spent in the classroom should be effective enough that they don't need to take any homework. That is the true parameter of success for me. Let them live their life. Let them have time to discover themselves. So similarly, for that applies for students in school. I'm sure it applies for every human being. There's a dignity to work. There's a capacity to work. Every human being has a different capacity. One may work in 2 hours in a very focused manner and be more effective than someone who works for 20 hours a day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.